Welcome back to the Winning in Life Without Losing Your Mind podcast. I am your host, Dustin Pete. I'm so excited to be with you this week as we're going to talk about how culture is defined, and it's kind of a buzzword in the workplace these days, but it seems more like an immovable object and kind of an is what it is type of thing. But I'm going to help you kind of break that down a little bit today with one simple step that will define your culture. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Dustin Peed. I would love for you to subscribe, ring the bell, and like this on YouTube. If you're listening to this as well, please rate and review. It helps this content go a long way. And drop me a note on any subjects that you'd like to hear me talk about as well. For more information, or if you'd like to learn more about the do versus do sheet process that I've been putting out there recently, you can go to dustinpeed.com. Or if you're interested in chatting with me about a future project, you can do that there as well. So let's dive right in today with how culture is defined. And so, like I said, some people just assume and accept their culture for what it is. It is what it is. I have no control over it. It will always be that way. It's always been that way, right? A lot of history comes wrapped up in your team culture, but ultimately, I think you have to refuse to live that way. Life's too short to work at a place that drains every aspect of your being for 5 to 6 days a week. So why not make it a place that actually you want to work at? Make it a place that you've always wanted to work at, because more than likely other people do as well. And so recently, with a team that I previously worked for in a staff meeting, we challenged the team to make a list of all the characteristics of what it's like when we're operating at our best. And then by comparison, we made a list of all the attributes of the team when we're not at our best. And a lot of interesting things made their way up onto the board. And obviously, any sane person would agree that the first place that they'd like to do, the first place that they'd most like to work at was the first column, right? Not the second column. They want to work at the place where everybody is at their best. Those are the types of attributes they want. But we get questions all the time about, well, how do we get there? How do we get to stay in that place of I want to work there all the time? And so what I want to tell you today is this is simply how culture is defined for you. If you're struggling to move what seems like an immovable object, or if you think there is no hope at all, here's what you need to know: this one simple statement, that culture is defined by what you allow to be okay. I'm going to say that again. Culture is defined by what you allow to be okay. It doesn't just happen by chance. It's made by what we choose to allow. It's made by what we choose to ignore. Also, it's what we choose to celebrate. It's what we choose to reward and what we choose to discipline, right? We all know that we celebrate what we want repeated. Well, also what you ignore also gets repeated in the same way. And so too many people are afraid to confront the actions on that wrong list, right? These are the types of things that we say we don't want to be, and they're afraid to attack those things. And so, what happens when we don't attack those things and we don't address the elephants in the room is that those things go unchecked. And that's the type of culture that we end up with, where there's a lot of mystery going on, there's a lot of confusion going on, there's a lot of tension going on, and no one is talking about it. Guess what? That's your culture. Whether you say it or define it that way, whether you have some pristine values wallpapered up onto your office wall or not, it does not matter. What you allow to happen, what you allow to be okay, right? What you allow to be okay is how your culture is defined. If we don't celebrate publicly when things go right in the culture that we want to see repeated, if we don't do that with consistently good culture behavior, then we will never have the team culture that we desire. So my question for you today is simple in this short episode: is so what are you allowing to be okay in your environment today? And the change begins and ends with each one of us. So what are you allowing to be okay today? What are you ignoring? What are you pushing off to the side? What are you accepting for the way it quote unquote always was? Those are the things that are going to define your culture. And you have the opportunity, you have the power, even if you're not all the way at the top of the org chart, you have the opportunity and the power to change that culture today by changing what you allow to be okay. If someone comes up to you and starts gossiping about something, but you know that where you're working at, and you specifically don't want to work at a place where gossip is okay, in that moment, you have a choice. You have a decision to make. I'm going to shut this gossip down because I don't want to work at a place where gossip is okay, because culture is defined by what you allow to be okay. So think about that today, and think about, what are you allowing to be okay in your environment today, and understand that change begins with you, and you have a choice. I'd love to talk to you more about this. If you want to hit the Let's Talk button at dustinpeed.com. Again, you can follow me at dustinpeed just about everywhere on the socials. I'd love to talk to you more about that. Can't wait to be with you next week for another quick episode of Winning in Life Without Losing Your Mind.